guys, it's your girl Cozy here. Welcome to another video. Today I've got some really exciting news that I want to share with you and I hope you enjoy it. So I'm going to be giving you 5 furry tips. You'll find out the surprise by the end of the video. Make sure to add lots of random fur. Say if your character has an off-sleeve shoulder top, try and add like little half circles all over it. Like imagine you're drawing an oval, just rub out the end of that oval and then just overlap it with different sizes and smaller ones and bigger ones, and then that way you've got fur. You can even add some stray hairs just to make it like give that fur effect. So you could add that on the shoulders, on the cheeks, on the ears, on the tail, really anywhere where there's open skin. That's where I recommend you use it. Anywhere where there's an open space, try and you could add as much fur as possible, or as less fur as possible. As much as you want to add, then just add that. Don't be afraid to go a little crazy with it or anything like that. So, tip number 2 is the ears. Most of the things that I've realized drawing furries is triangles help a lot when you're drawing ears. Say if you're drawing an ear that's folding down, like what I'm doing now, you could draw a very squished triangle, like a very small, stretched out triangle that's pointing down. That way, you have the effect that it's folding over. But make sure that you add a line that's going from the right side or the left side of the ear, of the triangle, onto the head. That way you'll see the ear coming up and then folding down. Then you can add whatever twist you want, maybe at the end of the triangle, like rub it out and add another little oval. That way it kind of breaks up a kind of texture with it, not like you can literally see all the triangles and circles. Circles and triangles and all types of shapes help create your art. So you don't have to keep it a completely straight triangle. You could add a little wave into it or anything that will kind of make it more movement. Because no one's a stiff character. You want to create that movement, create as many lines and sways as you can. Because the more of that, the more less stiff the character looks. Because when I first started out with drawing, I used to just draw straight lines. I'll add a reference picture. I used to just draw straight lines. There was no depth. Everything was a straight line across, up, for the arms. And it ended up looking very stiff. Very, very stiff. And I kept looking at other people's art being like, how do they make theirs look like it's almost 3D? What I realized is, if you're drawing an arm, say if she's looking up, and her arms up in the air, maybe instead of doing a straight line for her sleeve, curve the line. Curve the line whichever direction if she's looking up, curve the line towards the direction she's looking. Whatever direction she is going in, curve the line that direction. It will add more depth to your character. Number 3, the nose is probably the most complicated part of the furry. And the legs. The nose and the legs, but the legs is coming next. The nose, personally, I feel during the furry's nose has to be the hardest. Like figuring out all the different styles there is to just draw a nose. So always just draw animals and just draw little animal pictures and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, what if I gave this animal legs, people legs and people claws and stuff, and I was like, oh, I actually like this, and I found out it was called a furry, and I was like, oh, I think I really like this, because I guess as an animal, when I was drawing animals, they did have that stiff look to them. They'd either be facing one direction or straight forward, and that was all I could do. So when I got into drawing furries, and all the different poses and all the different actions they could do, and animations, it was just a lot harder to figure out how to position the nose and make it still look like a dog or a cat. I feel like another hard thing, separating a dog from a cat. When you're trying to make a furry, I do see people struggle with trying to separate the dog and the cat. Like, to separate that. Say if you want to draw a dog with pointy ears, but you draw a nose and it just looks like a cat. Or you draw a cat and you want to give it fluffy ears, but then it just ends up looking like a dog. What I've realized is cats have smaller noses. So you can literally do a tiny little triangle, down-facing triangle, and then it looks like a cat. But then, with a dog, you can either do a longer snout and a bigger nose, just a bigger triangle. I've seen people do a smaller snout for the cat and a longer one for the dog. Or some people, they don't even add snout, they just add the nose. What I recommend is bigger nose dog, small nose cat. Simple as that. Next is tip number 4. Okay, so tip number 4, legs. Personally, I draw legs anyway. I could draw them as a human's legs or as a animal's legs. I usually go for the human legs though, because the animal legs can be a little more difficult. If you're drawing in that, say, dog, cat, fox range, then the legs are very different. You can either do, what I recommend is looking at references of cat paws and dog, because that way you can see how you can use that into your artwork, because it's very easy. You could even simplify it and try it in different ways. That's tip number 4. So that's my tip. It's just references that you can use if you really want to get that furry, authentic look. That's tip number 4. The last tip of the video. Tip number 5. Okay, so tip number 5 is the hands. I'd also recommend references, again, because if you look at the paws, then you'll be able to know how to work around that. If you look at the paws, you can just reference it exactly as a hand, like make the fingers more chunky, more round like a paw. And then you can add those paw pads and you can really tell that you can add little tufts of fur on it. Yeah, so you can really do it whichever way you want to with furries, or you can still just keep it as a human hand. Personally, I like to keep it as a human hand for my furries, and then I kind of use the facts of the furry, and I use the paws and stuff like that in their more playful, smaller comic versions. And I use the hands and the legs and stuff like that, more detailed for the bigger versions, the masterpieces more. And yeah, that's the end of the tips. Okay, so here's the spread out version so you can see the rest of the picture. Make sure you watch to the end, because there's a special surprise for all of you. So now you've waited till the end of the video, here's a surprise. To celebrate me receiving 100k subscribers, write down your favourite cartoon characters in the comments and I'll be choosing 3 of them and be drawing them for my next video and I'll be giving you a shout out. Big thank you to everyone who's subscribed. Bye!